welcome everybody. Thanks for coming by. This is Chris Petri. We're going to do a gorgeous lighthouse, the Rock Island Lighthouse in New York State, the United States, St. Lawrence River. We completed this painting. I just wanted to put on the finished artwork, the finished painting, so that you can kind of see what your paintings are going to look like when you're completed. And we have lots of wonderful colors, beautiful trees, our lighthouse, the house next to the adjacent house next to the lighthouse where the keeper stays to maintain the lighthouse and control the lights, so on and so forth. And we have a few figures in here. We did beautiful details on the lighthouse toward the end of the painting. You're going to see all the methods and techniques of how we created this painting, so no worries. Just paint along with us. I give you all the colors you'll need as we go. The drawing, we're going to do the drawing in the beginning, show you how to set up your drawing on your rectangle, on your sheet of paper, so that you get all of your most important information onto your paper correctly, so that it sits just perfectly where you want it on your paper. And then once we're completed with our sketch and drawing, then we'll show you all the colors you're going to use, how to apply the colors of all the trees, the structures here, the house next to the lighthouse itself, how you're going to shadow that lighthouse, the way the light is in the painting. We cover having your light insignia on your sketch when you start, so that you know where you're going to have your bright light in your picture, and then this way everything else can follow suit with that, so that you won't have awkward shadows going in different directions, or having shadowing and light on your objects going in different directions, or something that would look unpleasant that someone would see looking at your artwork. You want to make sure everything is looking correct according to just the basics of looking at art, looking at light, especially if you're doing things in nature, outdoors, using outdoor lighting. It's got to be pretty much correct for it to look good. So that's how we kind of work on this painting. We show you how to do that as well. And we'll show you all the little nuances of the details at the end of the painting. Again, the figures, some of the details of the lighthouse and the area where the light is, and the railings on the top and everything like that. So stay tuned. Keep with us here. We're going to have fun doing this painting. It's not going to take tremendously long. Maybe we're going to work an hour, hour and a half at most. So let's enjoy it, have fun with the process, we'll learn something new on this painting as well as all of our paintings. So thanks for joining along, and we will see you in just a second. We'll start our sketch and our drawing. All right, welcome everyone. We just saw the finished painting of the Rock Island Lighthouse on the St. Lawrence River in New York State. Beautiful area. We were just there for a wonderful workshop. We had a great time, and so we're just going to get right into it here. Kind of go through the progressions that we would normally do for our watercolor paintings. So the first thing, I have the picture here. This is a photograph. My friends brought me out on their boat, and we were able to get some great pictures here of the lighthouse, really, really close by. We made a pass really close with the boat. And so let's do this. Let's kind of get in here and look at what we have. The lighthouse. We have an adjacent structure here. Another, looks like a house. This might be like a small maintenance building that for the lighthouse itself. Maybe has a bedroom or so, and a kitchen facilities, just so that there's someone there manning the lighthouse and taking care of it, a caretaker for the lighthouse. So let's kind of capture all of this into a wonderful painting, watercolor painting here. And let's get started. I'm going to actually look at the painting and pretty much get an idea of the light and the space divisions of our lighthouse and our building here next to it. So let's take a look. Light is coming from the right, coming this way. So the light's coming this way, so we'll just make our light insignia. I usually take a pen, like a Sharpie pen or something like that, a little more like something that might, like ink. Let me see if I can find a pen here. So I'll try to use more of maybe an ink pen. You could use the pencil too if you want. This might work a little better. So we just make our light spotlight insignia, like so. So that we know the light's coming from this direction. This way, if you ever have a question in your own mind when you're painting and drawing, you'll kind of can just refer back to that and say, oh, that's my light source, and it might be the sunlight. You might make a little sun emblem like this, just to know sunlight and it's coming from this way. And so we can get our space divisions now. So we have our sunlight. We know it's coming from the right-hand side of the photograph, and of course translating into our painting. And next thing we can look at is, well, where are some of the key areas of the painting that we can kind of get an idea of where we can kind of do some hash marks on our rectangle here on our tape. So I'm looking at it and I'm saying about halfway, or a little more than halfway, is the trees. So that's about there, about halfway. So the trees are up here, and if we go across here, the trees are also here, about a little bit above half on the watercolor paper. So if you go up halfway and you go up just a touch more, that would be where the trees are. And then maybe the water is approximately 1/4 of the paper up. So about 1/4 of the way up, we have our water line that goes across where the rocks are at the coastline here. So let's do that. Let's do 1/4. So if we have halfway here, I just lightly make some pencil lines. Halfway is here, 1/4 of the way is here, 3/4 here, and then the full 1 unit. So 1/4 here. That's where the water is approximately. So we can do our water line. We can go right across. You can use a ruler. Let's use a ruler to get our water line. Might as well just make a straight water line. When we start painting, it might, get a little bit more. We might have a little more variation in that line, but if we use a ruler, we're okay. Just so we can get pretty much a nice even level line across the picture for the water line here. My photograph sort of has a little bit of an angle to the water line, but I'd rather have it straight across. I think that would look better. That remains to be seen, though. Sometimes a little bit of a variation might look good, but I think a level water line might look better, like this, across. So we have our level line across here for our water. That's about 1/4 of the way up on our sheet of paper. And then halfway, a little bit above halfway, is our tree line here. So we have our tree line here. We have our lighthouse. Let's do it like we're doing here, a preliminary sketch. We're not doing the final drawing here. We're just kind of getting an idea of where everything should be in this rectangle here. We have our rectangle. Let's get everything just situated good in our picture frame, picture space here. And then we have the base of the lighthouse is not quite down to the water line. There's some rocks and stones and things that go, or that are, in between the water and the lighthouse. So we're going to do that. That's some rock and coastal rocks and things like that all along here. So we're going to capture those. There's a bit of a fence too. We might not necessarily have to draw every detail. Let's just kind of keep it simple, fun and simple. So we'll have the lighthouse here, and then there's a railing around the lighthouse at the top area here that we're doing, like so. And it overhangs the top portion of the main light itself, the lighthouse. It overhangs it quite a bit there. And then the light itself steps in a little bit from the main structure of the lighthouse. So when you get to the top of the lighthouse with the main concrete and stone that they've built this lighthouse with, when you get to the top section where there's the railings, those overhang quite a bit. You can kind of see that there. Those overhang, a decent amount. And then the actual light itself, the light where the light is in this lighthouse, that's a little bit set in from those two vertical lines like this. So you have your two vertical lines of your lighthouse going up, like so. Then when you get to the lighthouse area, this actual light at the top, that area of the lighthouse where they built the main room where the light is, that's a little bit thinner, so it shrinks down a little bit, it sets in a little bit. And then we have the conical shape at the top of the lighthouse with a lightning rod on top. So we could do the lightning rod and the ball on top of the conical roof. And I think we have it. That is a really good basic lighthouse shape, and some details in there too. And there's some supports for the underside of the catwalk on the lighthouse. There's a shadow here, like that. You could shade in the shadow area a little bit like that with some pencil marks, just so you kind of know that you're going to need to make some shadows, and maybe a pencil line here just to indicate where, you know, you're going to want to add a shadow there. Let's indicate it. We can even take our eraser and just erase a little bit of that line that we made for the shadow. But at least there's something there, a little bit, to just keep us thinking that we need to add that shadow on this side a little bit of the lighthouse over here. And this is the light side of the lighthouse here. So we have our lighthouse. Let's kind of go over here, and we're going to kind of see that there's a building about this far. We're going to have the actual house for the caretaker of the lighthouse. So we can do this here. We can do the gable roof here. And then we can take that and just run this kind of straight back like this, even, level. And the same here, this can be level like that. So these two lines of the top of the roof, the actual ridge of the roof, and then the eaves of the roof here, those are level lines. Those are basically going straight level this way. And then here on this house, there's a little bit of a shed roof over here, like this. You don't have to get complicated with this structure. You can make it more simple and maybe just make it this. You could actually just kind of simplify it. Maybe just have the gable end of the roof here, these two level lines, and that's all you have to worry about. I'll add this small addition onto the lighthouse, or the small bump out on this lighthouse. There's a window there, maybe a window over here too. I think I see a window or a door, possibly a French door or a sliding door over here on this side. And that's pretty good. And then we're going to have some trees over here, and there's trees. Actually, there's a tree line behind this whole scene. So you can kind of just do a light sketch of the trees in the background here. And there's a little more, the trees go up a little higher over here. Some of the branches and limbs and so forth over here. But this is looking good, and there's a window on this side of the building. So let's do the window. And it has shutters, like so. And then I won't go too much detail. We'll just keep it as a couple shutters. And it's a white house with a black roof, a dark roof. So charcoal looking dark roof. So and there's trees over here. So this building goes back into the tree areas. So far we've been really coming along well. We've been working about maybe 11, 12, 13 minutes so far, getting our drawing in here, going at a good pace. We don't want to spend too much time on the drawing because we can always recall that in watercolor, you have a lot of freedom once you start painting. You can paint in some details that you maybe didn't draw in as you're looking at your photograph. So we might do that too. But I think we have the most of the details in here. There's a small wall here. It looks like maybe a small wooden seawall here. And then there's also rocks going up here. So we're going to do the rocks and just make some round shapes here. We'll paint these in, the details of the rocks. We're going to paint those. We're not going to draw them so much. And then we have some really cool rock formations over here. Those are going to be kind of grayish color, cool gray rock colors, some warmer gray rock colors along the water. So we're just getting some rock ideas here along the coast. These are all rocks here along the coastline where this lighthouse is, like so. And I think that's good. So we can kind of see we have for the most part, our drawing is solid. It looks good. We did it quickly. We didn't suffer over things and erase every 5 seconds we're erasing, and I don't like this line, I don't like that line. We just the main thing is just get the basics of the drawing done, and then when you get in and start painting, you're going to notice that everything's going to take shape and it's going to look really good. And again, this is kind of a faster pace. We're trying to get a loose, fast, kind of pleasant, pleasing looking painting out of it, and we don't want to spend an hour or 2 hours trying to sketch all this out. We spend maybe 20 minutes to half an hour at most drawing this, but you can kind of see we've been here working for about 15 minutes and we've got what we need in 15 minutes. All the tree areas here, the tree line in the back was just a bit of an undulating bit of shapes with our pencil just to get the basic shape of the tree line behind the lighthouse. The lighthouse we spent some time on to get it correct. The lines, the angles, the lighthouse is angular as it goes up. We wouldn't want to make a straight kind of like, tube looking thing. That's just, we have to have angles to our lighthouse, and you can see here there's quite a bit of angular shape to this. So, and we captured that with our drawing. The top of the lighthouse we captured too with the conical roof. And then here we did our basic shape of the lighthouse keeper's quarters, which is a simple kind of just like just a simple gable roof, a window here, and then if you want to add this little addition here that's bumped out from this wall this way, you can do that too here, or you can just leave it straight back so that you don't have to do a more detailed rendition of this building. You can just keep it a simple structure instead of going with more detail like I did here. That's up to you. You can do that if you want, but you're the artist. You have to take your artist liberties and sometimes simplify things down if you don't want to spend another 15 minutes trying to hash out these different angles and windows and different things on this section of your building next to your lighthouse. You can just make it a simple straight line across, and maybe you just add a few windows on the side over here like so. Maybe 1, 2, or 3 windows, maybe a door. Simple kind of a thing like that, and you're in good business. You're all set. So we've got everything here we need. Maybe we just make a little bit of a couple lines in our water, but I think our water, we're gonna have a fun time doing the water. Nice, fast and free water, nothing too complex. We'll spend most of our time painting, the lighthouse and the house here, I think, and the rocks we'll spend some time on. But you'll see, we're gonna go quick here. We're not gonna take a lot of time. We're gonna try to do this fast and free and fun. And sometimes those are the best paintings we do, is when they're just kind of, we get in there and do it and get it done, and we move on to the next painting. And always there's going to be a few that really stand out and look really good. And other times we're going to do paintings that don't always look that great, and that's fine too. You can't always do every painting perfect, Sometimes your paintings are going to look not going to come out great. You just take those, put them in a file somewhere, and you start your next one, and you keep moving forward. So I'm going to take a quick break and grab a cup of coffee, and then I'll come back and we'll start painting this one. And you're going to have a lot of fun doing this, and we're not going to spend, again, a ton of time. Maybe we'll do this in about half an hour at most, 40 minutes. I think we can get this really painted beautifully, and we'll show you how to do it step by step as we go. Okay? All right. We'll be right back. All right, so we're back and we're actually going to start to work again. We're going to do the painting portion now of this beautiful Rock Island Lighthouse in New York State on the St. Lawrence River. And I'm going to move my camera, my phone over here, so we still have the painting over on this side. This way I can start working at the lighthouse area first. So the first thing I'm going to do is mix some greens for the trees, and that'll be sap green. And let's just get a good mixture of things here. Sap green, olive green, sap green. And I'll mix a lot of different colors here, and I'll mention them as I go. So you have sap green, olive green, a little bit of raw umber. So we'll have some raw umber here. What else are we going to have here? A little bit of burnt sienna. So I'll try to get a good mixture of colors, cobalt blue, even a little bit there. So I think that's a pretty good mixture right there. And again, we're going to do this fun and free, loose, not get too bogged down with being too critical of ourselves here. Let's just get these trees around the lighthouse. As we go. Let's start to get the colors on there. And I just do a little bit of, kind of like little upstrokes like this, maybe like that, just for the treetops. Maybe you can even do a couple, just tapping with some finger painting a little bit, just tapping with some colors and stuff like that. Like so, and then some raw umber here. I would leave a tiny bit of, I would leave a little bit of white paper here and there, just to maybe have a little bit of, kind of like that feeling of light in there. A little bit of light is always good. I'll splash a little bit too, and there's some So I'm trying to get these tree areas in quickly and effectively, like so. And I think I'm going to just keep going along here. I might take my brush and hold my brush on the side here. I have Fabriano paper with rough paper, rough style paper, which is really kind of nice. You can kind of get some kind of rough leaves and things like that. Like a broken feel of, like that. And I go in and get some blue too. I want to add some blue in there. Warm and cool everywhere. And have some fun with it. Splash some paint on there. Then what I'm going to do is actually start to tie this right in with the trees, the color, and try to get that shadow right in there on the underside of the lighthouse, like so. So that's my next kind of thing I wanted to work on, was try to get, I'm going to do my best to take the same colors that I was using for the trees and then just use that for the lighthouse. It kind of all homogenizes into one as we're going. And then you can add that little bit of burnt sienna in there just for a little bit of warm. And the light's coming from this way, so you could, going to get a little more of that burnt sienna there. Warm and cool everywhere. You can actually take a tissue or a small piece of paper towel, and I'll try to get a little bit of light on the top of the cone of the lighthouse over here, like that, just to give us that bit of that little more accent of the light shining on this side, this side of the lighthouse. And I might add a little purple there too, under here, like that. Then I might soften this a little bit. So I take a damp brush, no paint, just damp brush. After I take the water, so I rinse off my brush in the water, dry it off on a paper towel or a tissue a little bit, just to take some of the water off. Just we want to leave the brush just damp with no paint. And then I can just take this and just dampen right along this edge of the lighthouse so that you have a little bit of the shadow working along here. You can take some of that shadow and bring it along that side of the lighthouse like so. Then again, the same thing, dry off the brush and just have a damp brush, and then just slowly smooth out that wash there so that it kind of gently flows into the light side of the lighthouse, the white paper. And you can always go in and do a little more darker shadow here by getting a little darker paint, maybe some cobalt blue, and like this, like that. And then if you find it starts to bleed out too much, you just lift it up with some tissue, and then you just tell yourself you're going to go back in later and do some more touching up. You'll add a little darker shadow under here, maybe where the underside of this part of the lighthouse is, where the shadow is, the very top of the lighthouse underneath the catwalk. So you can do a little dabbing up, and even just dab up what you have to. If your colors start to bleed, so if you're working in watercolor and you notice that your colors start to like blossom and bloom out into another area of damp paper where you're working, you don't have a problem with that. You just take it and you lift it up quick with a paper towel or tissue, and then you just know, okay, at that point I'm not going to go anywhere near that again until it dries. So that's maybe like a half an hour later or 20 minutes later. Or you could use a blow dryer and do it faster, but let's just keep working over here. We have plenty of other areas to paint. So you can kind of see I'm going to just start working over here, burnt umber, burnt sienna, and then more greens, sap green, olive green. So I'm just putting out more greens and some cerulean blue as well, maybe some more burnt sienna. So we're just doing that. We're just getting some more color for our trees. And then we notice we can go right into the roof if we wanted to, but we're going to go around the roof right now. But you will see that actually, let's see now if I can do this here. There we go. And then we're just going to have some darks here and there. Little spots of darks always look good when you're painting. If you can add little sparkles of darks. This is kind of a lot of mid-tones here. You can kind of see that, a lot of middle tones. So if you add some darker tones in there, here and there, that looks good. And you can kind of see we had fun doing this tree line here with all these trees, and we're not getting too fussy with it. And then we're going to do some French ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, French ultramarine blue. Let's get that dark here. We have that dark roof here, so let's get that in. And it's going to blend and flow right into the trees. But we do get this here like so. Like that. And there we have our roof. And this is the other roof that's here, the shed roof. There's a little addition on the building here. like so. Okay, so we have that. And then we go back in again with our greens, like that, and we just kind of flow that all in together, raw umber. And then what I might do right now is I might move my phone over this way a little bit. There we go. Much better. Okay, so we're continuing on here. We did our lighthouse area over here. Now I put my subject here, my photograph over on the right-hand side, and then I'm just going to do some just taking the brush and kind of scrubbing it a little bit along the paper, and just have fun with it. Don't worry about it. You get in those tree type shapes and colors, some blues. Again, we're trying to have the idea of warm and cool everywhere. So green can be warm and cool, but typically we would think of green as sort of a cooler color, I think. But you could have a really different idea on colors. Everyone, I guess, has their own color ideas. And then if you oversplash and think it looks too much, you can always lift up a little bit of your splashing, but I think that looks good. So now we have our tree area completed. We have rocks. So I'm going to sort of do some rock formations here with more of that gray color. So we have some gray shapes of gray color for our rocks. They get a little bit warmer with a little bit of burnt sienna mixed in there. So we're going to do that. Some rocks going into the water areas here. And we can add some darker darks if we want to as we start to get our rock shapes here. We can certainly add some darks to so I'm going to try to add in some cerulean blue too as well. Warm and cool everywhere. Okay, so we have our rocks. They're looking good. And we will make some darker lines with some darker wash in just a little while once we have the, so we have the rock formations here, like so. And again, you can see we didn't suffer over this too much and get too, overly concerned about every detail here. We got the trees in with a really good mixture of colors, which always looks great if you can just mix up a lot of colors to start with. We showed you how to do that just a few minutes ago, how to mix a lot of greens, sap green, olive green, then you mix in some raw umber and a little bit of burnt sienna in there and some cerulean blue. You get a lot of good color variation in your tree area. You'll be very happy because when you're looking at it, your eye will be tantalized by all the different variations in colors and the softer kind of looking washes here and there, and then you have some darker colors here and there, spots of darker tonal value. So as long as you make something really exciting as you're going along in your washes, that's good areas that people can get, kind of lost in and have fun looking at it. So that's a good thing, good philosophy to have with watercolors. Try to think of it as you want to have lots of variety and fun things going on in your painting, something for people to look at and get excited about and get interested in. If we just had one color wash on the whole painting or just two colors of washes, that would be kind of boring. No one would really want to look at it for too long. They would just kind of say, oh, there's just a couple different colors on the painting and that's about it, and they just would move right along. But if we can give the viewer lots of interesting colors and variations in colors, I think then the painting will look better. And people will want to look at it and have fun. And I'll put a little bit of purple here. So I'm going to take a little bit of purple and we'll make a shadow there under the eave of the roof there. Maybe we'll make it a little darker with some French ultramarine blue like that. And this side over here is in shadow. So I'm going to put that in shadow over here. That's in, part of that's in the light. Okay, so I added shadow and some raw umber, put a little bit of warmth in the shadows. So I take a little bit of raw umber and add that in, very quickly though, into the purple and blue shadows of the building over here, the side of the building, like that. This is the light side of the building where there's more sunlight, bright sunlight. These are the blue and brown, burnt umber and blue, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber. I'll dry off a little bit of the paint. And then there's some more window here, like that. And then we'll let this go for now. We don't want to paint where it's really damp and wet, the paint. Let's let that dry. And I think we're looking good. Look at that. It's already a really dynamic looking painting already. We've been painting another 10 or 15 minutes now, so let's take another break. And I think if we take a break at this point, the last bit of washes we're going to do, that's going to be the final part of our painting. We're going to, we have the majority of all of our subject matter now completed. We have the lighthouse, the keeper's house next to the lighthouse here completed with shadows and the light side of the building where the light's coming this way. Then you have your shadows over here, so you have some shadows on this side of the house. There's a little bit catching the light over here on this part of the building. If you don't put in this small addition or bump out on this building this way, you can see how it kind of protrudes out from the side of this building. If you don't add this little bit of building over here, this small section of the house, then this would all be in shadow. But since this is on a 90-degree angle from this roof here, I'm kind of getting a little bit into the minutia of this, but suffice to say, if you just want to go with a more simple approach to the drawing and painting portion, and you just want to make this roof straight back with no other parts of this building protruding out this way on a 90-degree angle from this face of the building on the shadow side, that means you wouldn't have any light over here. You just have one shadow going all the way across that wall, and you could put some windows and doors on that side if you want. But we decided to go accurate with this portion of the drawing and painting where you do see a little bit of a 90-degree angle of a addition or a bump out on this building, the lighthouse keeper's building, and maintenance as well. Maintenance for this lighthouse is right here in this building. You know, you can kind of see there's that light on the wall there because that wall is actually the same plane as this here, this gable end of the wall. But if you just want to keep it simple, you can just take this wall and go straight back and not have that. So it's up to you how you want to do it. But I'm sure you're going to figure it out. You'll look at it and see if you want to do this part of the building. If not, you can keep it more simple. Other than that, we're ready to take a break. And once we take a break, we'll come back one more time and we'll finish up the sky and the water here, the beautiful St. Lawrence River along this gorgeous lighthouse, the Rock Island Lighthouse in St. Lawrence, on the St. Lawrence River. And let's come back, just take a quick break, and we'll get started in just a second. Oh, I always mention too, I have plenty more videos here on my channel, and if you subscribe on the right hand side here below the screen, you'll see a subscribe button. You just hit subscribe, and all that means is you'll see my videos next time you come onto YouTube. YouTube will actually just make sure you'll see my newer videos coming out in the future, so that you won't kind of lose me in a sense. You'll kind of know I'm making new videos, and you'll see them and you can follow them. And if you're brand new here, please, I want to give you a warm welcome and say thanks so much for coming by. You're going to really enjoy watercolor. I have many videos on beginners, which is the Extreme Beginners series videos on my channel here, as well as these more advanced studies in watercolor. So whether you're doing Extreme Beginners series video watching, all you have to do is type in Extreme Beginners, and you'll see all my videos that are more simple approaches, simple methods, just for starting out if you've never painted before, and you know, if you've never picked up a pencil and did stick figures or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you've just started in watercolor painting or you're about to start watercolor painting, Extreme Beginners is the best place to start. I use a little less sophisticated methods and techniques, as well as my gear is a little bit more simple and less expensive. So you can start off real simple for maybe $20, $30. You can get started and start painting, and that's all you have to spend, and you'll be off and running, and that can take you a long way, a couple of years of time before you start getting into more sophisticated brushes and palettes and all that kind of stuff, and all the gear. You have plenty of time to have all that fun and do all the research. But again, if you subscribe down on the right-hand side, you won't miss a thing here on my channel. You'll have tons of fun here, whether you're watching my more advanced paintings and tutorials, or whether you go back and you're watching the Extreme Beginners videos, which I make on a consistent basis as well. You'll absolutely get a great insight into creating watercolors at a introductory level or at a more advanced level of painting. So I know you'll enjoy both, and we'll see you in just a second. We'll finish up this painting with some gorgeous, beautiful sky washes and some water washes here with some beautiful waves and bits of light on the water. You'll see it's going to look wonderful. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, and we're going to get started with our sky wash and our water, and maybe some fine details for our rocks and some shadows. For the most part, we still are going to use our photograph, of course, to get some ideas on that. So let's, maybe we'll shift to a smaller brush. So I'm going to use a smaller, like number 4, Da Vinci Maestro travel brush. And I'll try to get in some darker darks with some French ultramarine blue and burnt umber, and a little bit of burnt sienna, and a little bit of cobalt blue, French cerulean blue. Kind of get a nice little mixture of darks, but have it so there's some variation in it. It wouldn't look so good if we were to be just putting on one color, let's say, one wash. So here, you're going to see, I'm going to follow my pencil lines here. And those are going to be the rock shadows of the rocks. And you'll notice that I just try to get the shadows in for the rocks. There's plenty of shadows in these rocks here that we can use to make things look really pleasing and pleasant looking, with the sharp rock formations and the splits in the rocks where the rocks have the shadowing. So I'm going to try to do that. And as we go over here, there's some more. And I try to just, you know, move them around, the shadows, like so. But they're pretty much like this. And it looks like there's a bit of a shadow along the coastal where it meets the water. And we leave a little bit of white paper there. So you see how I kind of leave that white paper along the bottom of the rocks, like so. And there's some shadows up here too as well, where we have some shadows on the rocks up here, like that. And then over here we don't have to get in too much detail. But you can kind of see I've just gotten the basic gist of things. There's some dark shadows here where the rocks are. You can kind of see them all through here. So I just want to try to capture those and get those in. They're all kind of flowing down on an angle like this. So the angle of these shadows are all pretty much like this, all the way across. You can kind of see that. They're all kind of going this way. And then some of them are larger. And then over here, I'm not going to make a real, we'll leave it kind of, we won't put too many details along the edge of the painting over here. We'll kind of just let that so more of the details of the shadows are over here in the center area where these more exciting things are, like the lighthouse and the caretaker's house for the lighthouse. And then we can go in and we'll get the window in there. So I'm going to put a couple details in for the windows. And there's a door back here like so. Nothing has to be perfect or anything like that. And I think that's good. Sometimes a little bit less is more. And then some little fence things over here. So there's a fence along here. And again, haphazard looks good. Just kind of throw in some quick lines for the fence like so. And I think that's good enough. Again, we wouldn't want to sit here for 20 minutes and try to paint tiny, small fence posts in there. If we can go in and do it quick like we just did, go in like that, that looks fine. We could take a little more green and gold and sort of blend that down in there where the fence is. I think that looks good. Now we're ready to have some water in here. And what I'll do is just kind of try to blend this in there too. The roof. I try to blend that into the trees a little bit. Burnt umber, French ultramarine blue. Some greens over here. So we could add a little bit of more vibrant green in this section over here next to the lighthouse. And that just brings a little more excitement to the area over here. With some sap green. Sap green. And I'll splash there just a little bit to kind of blend it in. To blend that sap green in with the rest. But that does look pretty good. We might even go with cerulean blue, a little cool, a little bit more cool color. But I think that looks fine. And that looks very much realistic according to the photograph that we're doing. Now we're going to just shift back up to a larger brush. I'm going to empty my water. Our water has a lot of green and kind of a muddy look to it, so that's why I just changed it out, because we're doing the sky and the water, which we want to have more transparent, beautiful, clean washes. And at this point now, I think I'm going to just move this out of the way. My reference photo. I think we're okay now. We have pretty much most of the painting completed. And we could even go with a larger brush. So I was using a number 6 Raphael brush here. And I might just bump that up to a number 10 travel brush, Da Vinci Maestro travel brush. So you can kind of see the size difference there. It's quite a bit larger, and that's good because we have a lot of large sky washes here. So an important part of watercolor is kind of shifting around from different size brushes as you need it. Like if we're doing fine details, like on the house, we'd want to use maybe a small, like a number 4, number 6, to get these small windows and shutters and some of the areas of the roof and some of the shadows under the eaves of the roof and so forth. And maybe some of these fence posts, some of these details up here. When we go back in here to do our final details for the lighthouse, we'll use this number 4 round brush. And then when we're doing the trees, we want to have like a medium-sized brush here, the number 6 Raphael. So a good-sized brush that gives us the advantage of having some good amounts of paint and water in the brush to get our trees in here with lots of color and variation. But the ability to move pretty rapidly through this tree section here that we did, this tree line. And now that we're doing the water and the sky, this is very large areas of the painting. And now we're just going to shift up to an even larger. This is a number 10 travel brush, Da Vinci Maestro travel brush. And this is you can see it's a quite a bit larger brush. And this will be perfect to get all these washes in really quickly and effectively. And then from there we can shift back down to some smaller brushes if we need to do a few more details. But now when we're at this stage of the watercolor painting, we have large areas that we're going to need to cover. Let's get them done quickly. We're going to have fun with it. We're not going to, do too much detail on the sky and the water. We want to keep these areas more free-flowing, lots of water, lots of paint. And then we can add in a little detail if we want to once we're completed with it. But I think we'll try to get this done pretty quickly, and let's go right in. We're going to get some French ultramarine blue, a little bit of purple there too, and we're going to keep it light. I think I'm going to keep the sky and the water light. A little bit of try to gray this down a little bit with some of the burnt umber that was left over in French ultramarine blue. Maybe a little bit of raw umber. Cobalt blue as well. But I think that's a pretty good cerulean blue. We use cerulean blue, so let's try all this mixture. I'll go right across like this. And you can kind of see I'm just smoothing it along here. And then we can start to leave some white areas for clouds. Go right through like that, through the lighthouse. Except over here on the lighthouse, I want to keep that light, so I'll keep that light there. And then we can go in and add some darker areas. We could add some more cobalt blue, a little bit of burnt umber just to gray it down a little bit. The sky is always darker at the top, up here, and then it gets lighter as it goes toward the horizon line. Like that. Like this. Like that. Nice, and the lines get finer as they go into the distance, so the clouds get thinner at the further distance. So, and you can even add some more cloud effects at the top here with a tissue, maybe a little bit, just to give a little bit of an interesting lightness to the clouds. And then a touch of orange. So I'll do a little bit of a cleanup on the palette here just so I can get some orange on the palette. Like that. Tiny bit. just a tiny bit of orange like that. And then if we can get that in here at the bottom of the painting, that's going to really give it a realistic look of some orange at the horizon line. So that's what I do. I go right along the top there. And even a little bit there too. So I'm going to put a little bit of that orange in the blue wash here too, just as so it blends up into the blue color too as well. Like that. Like that. That looks pretty good. Now we're going to actually get right into the water, and we'll do a nice light wash here. Cerulean blue, maybe a little bit of the grayed down wash, just to have a little bit of a variation to this. And then we can actually leave the shadow here for the lighthouse. So I just want to do this, add a little bit of a reflection of the shadow of the lighthouse here. Like that. And I'm just trying to get some color on here. A little bit of purple. I think purple looks good too, sometimes in water and in sky. Okay, and that looks good. So we're working here at a good pace. We've got our sky wash in quickly. Within the last 10 minutes, we got our sky wash in. Our water washes here. We have a beautiful reflection of the lighthouse, a little bit on the water that we left there. And we can actually let this dry now at this point. So we'll take another break because we must let this dry now. We can't go back in now and start adding anything to the sky or the water because it's still very, very wet and damp. And that means if you add more water and paint to this wash that we just did of the sky and the water, it'll just take off on you and it'll cause unpleasant looking marks like blossoms and blooms and cauliflowers of color that just will actually make it won't look well. It won't look good. It won't look pleasing if we're starting to try to add more details to our sky and water. So now's the perfect time to let this dry 100%, and we'll come back and then we'll just do our final details of maybe a little bit of some waves in the water, and we'll do some more highlights to the lighthouse because there was a few details on the lighthouse, a few windows, and a little bit more up at the light here and the railings and the such to get this completed. But for the most part, we are pretty much 90% complete now. So we'll just go in with a few more details, and we'll also talk about not over finishing a painting, which is real important. So now is the time when paintings start to get overworked. So we're going to show you how not to overwork your painting. You can see where we have everything right now at this point. Now we're going to go back in and do a few more details, but we have to let this dry again 100% before we go in and do any details to the sky or water, and as well as the lighthouse, because the lighthouse is in the sky area, and that we just created a wash over that area over here. So this has to dry, all of this 100%. So let's come back in just a second or two and we'll finish up. Hello again, and we are back, and we're actually going to start to finish up this painting, this beautiful lighthouse painting. And let's start out by let's go up to the top of the lighthouse here, and we'll get some burnt umber. We'll mix that in over here, some burnt umber and French ultramarine blue, just to get a little bit of a darker kind of wash. Very light though, not too much, kind of no water, just straight paint with maybe a damp brush just to get a few details of the actual lighthouse. So I'm going to bring the lighthouse back over here and maybe even zoom in a little bit if I can, like that, just so we can kind of see what's the interior of the lighthouse. And there's some, so I'm just going to do some quick details here. We're going to do the railing, and again, I've got a very, this is a number 4 Da Vinci Maestro travel brush, and it's got a good point on it, so I'm just going to get some of those details of the railings around the top of the lighthouse. I'm going to add a little cerulean blue here, just to get a little more of the shadow under there, like so. And there's the top of the lighthouse is actually like so. And there's maybe a little bit of a darker dark, so I try to pick up some of that darker dark and get a bit of darker dark under there, under the actual cone of the roof of the lighthouse, the cone of the rooftop of the lighthouse. And there's the top of the lighthouse there, and then there's a tiny bit of lightning rod there. And there's some details there, but this is, since we just did this portion here underneath the of the lighthouse, underneath the catwalk, which is the walkway that goes around the top of the lighthouse, since we have that there, and that's still wet paint, we can't really get some of those details of those darker supports underneath, like L supports. But we can get maybe a little bit of a, we're going to get a little bit of a detail there. And then there's another larger detail here. And then there's a window here. So I'm just going to really rough in a very light bit of detail like this. So that's just one of the windows there. So if I can just get a couple little spots of color, and that'll give me enough to be like happy with some detail in the lighthouse, but not going too much with too much detail. And then there's another door over here. Maybe I will do that too. I blend it in there with the bottom. So that's pretty much all I will do with these lighthouse details. I think that's good enough for now. That's fine. Yeah, that looks good. Then I'll move this out of the way again, since we just got those few small details. And let's do some more details with the water. I think the sky looks good. I'm going to go with French ultramarine blue, touch of purple, French ultramarine blue, maybe a little bit of raw umber. And I just want to maybe get just a couple of the, so I'm just going to go back and forth like this, just to get a couple things moving along in the water, like that. And then over here, not so much. As it gets closer to the shore, I don't think we need much detail, but over here, this is fine. And then I blend a few of these too. And I just really slowly try to blend them across the page like that, just so we have a little bit of water movement in the foreground here of the water. Like that. And I think that's plenty enough. That looks good enough. The exciting focal point is the lighthouse and the lighthouse keeper's quarters. I'm going to try to find a little bit of white paint maybe to touch up this. Some green paint worked its way into our this wall over here. Let's see if I can find some white paint quickly. So let me see if I can find some white, titanium white, and I think I found it. So some titanium white always works well. Just a touch, a little bit here and there, you know, to touch up a few things is fine. I wouldn't really use too much. I add a little bit of yellow ochre to it as well, so that it gives it a little bit of like a warm white look versus just a stark white. So that's a little bit of yellow ochre in there. And I'll just want to cover over that. I don't know if you can see that, but there was a little bit of green paint there. I can even zoom in a little bit. So there was some green paint over here on this wall, so I tried to get that so that it looks a little bit more just the white wall and not have green infiltrating into that. That looks good there. And I think we're fine. This looks good. This is a completed painting. I'll zoom back out. And then what we'll do is in the beginning of the video, I'll always cover the finished painting as we started, so you can see everything, how it looks when it's complete. The tape peeled off, so there'll be a nice border edge around it. And that will really give you a great idea of how it looks when we're completely finished here. Let's do a couple figures though. Let's do that. We could do some figures here too. So let's use some of that. I'll zoom out just a little bit so we have better. So I'll use some of this warm and cool, kind of a brownish gray mixture, just to get a couple figures in. Maybe we'll do a figure over here by the lighthouse. Like that. And maybe another one over here by the house. I'll get some cad red for the flesh tones. Maybe we'll do a little flesh tones here. So we'll do some flesh tones for the heads. And if your figure doesn't come out great, you can always blot it up and let it dry for a little while and go back and finish it. So I'll go back in and get some more darker darks. Like that. This one looks okay. And a little more like that. Just a few figures to make things interesting. Maybe we can go with a little bit of a color, maybe some. Again, you can always blot it up and start again. And then if you want to, you can dry the paper with a blow dryer so that you can start again. But I think that's fine. A couple figures looks good. Here. Like that. Okay. This is good. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up now. Again, thanks so much for watching. We had fun doing our beautiful lighthouse here, the Rock Island Lighthouse in New York State on the St. Lawrence River. And we're going to, at the very, very beginning of the video, you're going to see the finished painting with the tape peeled off and zoomed in. So you'll see a really beautiful rendition of the finished painting. And you can also work from that too if you maybe don't want to work from the photograph we had on my phone. You can also do a screen capture or save this to your computer, your laptop, your iPad, your phone, and you can do your own rendition of this using the actual finished painting as your guide to paint. So any way that you feel comfortable, please work your own way. You're the artist. You have to figure out your own methods of how you're going to create your artwork and how you're going to do that. But I always try to leave many options open. That's why I also put this finished painting in the beginning of the video, so this way you can work with that first if you want, and then again you can also just work along in the video with the picture that I have on my phone. All right, so we'll see you soon. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in just a few. Bye-bye.